Okay, it's going down Saturday night. A very big game right now between the Cowboys and the Eagles. What will the Cowboys win over Jalen Hurts-less Eagles team tell you about their Super Bowl aspirations and status? And Zach, once again, you can start us off.
Yeah, well, so this is an interesting one because I actually like the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. I think they're going to come and play a complete game, and I think they're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reason why I say that is because the last 2 weeks, like it's been pretty clear to me against the Texans and watching them last week against the Jaguars when they actually played well at times but couldn't close that game out. The Cowboys have had this game circled for a really long time, and they want this one bad. If you remember earlier this season in Philly, that game was actually pretty competitive, but the Cowboys had Cooper Rush under center. He threw a few interceptions, and the Eagles took advantage. I honestly don't know how much this game matters to the Eagles, just because they could still clinch the number 1 seed next week with a win over the Saints. And they're really going to want to win that game also because they have the Saints draft pick. That's going to help them out in terms of maybe getting a really good pick this draft. But I think the Eagle, and it's crazy to say too, because this game is really important. It's one of the only 2 games on the 4 o'clock slate on Saturday. But I think the Cowboys have had this game circled, and the Eagles, they've had a great season, but I still don't believe they're just going to go 16-1. I think they're due to lose a game, and I like Gardner Minshew. I think he'll be all right in this game. He'll give the Eagles a chance to win, but I think the Cowboys are going to give a complete effort. In terms of what that would mean for their Super Bowl aspirations, honestly, nothing, because I think we've seen over the course of this season and the last few years that it is very hard to trust the Dallas Cowboys to win 3 or 4 big games in a row, the games that are going to matter the most in a big game. I still don't trust their head coach. I still don't trust their quarterback and their defense, who earlier this season looked like a clearly elite unit, one of the best in the league. It's been struggling over the past few weeks, letting Trevor Lawrence just really chop them up last week pretty easily. So I think in vintage Cowboys fashion, they're going to come to play this week. I think they're going to beat the Eagles, get their fans excited. But when it comes to the playoffs and their Super Bowl aspirations, can I trust this Dallas Cowboy team? Absolutely not. And I think that's only bona fide based on what I've seen the last 2 weeks against AFC South opponents they should have beaten.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for me, I want to start in Philly, though, because what I admired about the Eagles roster construction was the fact that they were able to have short-term aggressiveness, like, yo, we going all in, and long-term insurance policies, right? For example, when they gave Carson Wentz that extension, they actually drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round, right after that, a couple months after the extension, right, as a policy insurance, right? Okay, cool. This guy's thinking up, which he did. Now we have a quarterback that we can groom into this role of being QB1. Also, when you talk about when they did elevate Jalen Hurts, who did they get for his backup? They sent the 6th-round pick, took advantage of the Urban Meyer regime, the stupid ass heads over there, and said, you know what? Let's con them, okay, for a 6th-round pick for Gardner Minshew. And now that our quarterback is hurt, now we have a guy who was a starter before, who is experienced playing on Saturday in Gardner Minshew Mania. Okay, cool. So we start off over there. I think for me, though, Michael Parsons kind of sold this game even more when he went on that podcast, the Voncast, and now we talking about it on our podcast about, Jalen Hurts and the MVP candidacy and how, the team and, it's a team that's good. I think he kind of added more fuel to the fire, made this game more, I guess you could say interesting. It would have been great to see Jalen Hurts playing this game for those reasons. But at the same time, this is a big game. This is a divisional game. Gardner Minshew, he's experienced. So I'm not, I don't expect a blowout either way. Now to answer the question, if the Cowboys want to win this game, does it mean anything about their Super Bowl aspirations? Hell nah. Listen, I came on this show on Monday. I believe that the NFC East is the most overrated division in the NFL, period. And I honestly could see a world in which every team that makes the playoffs, whoever, right? I don't know if the Commanders going to make it right now. They in, right? I don't know if the Giants look like they in, right? Okay. Whether it's 3 teams, whether it's 2 teams, every team from this division I can see being one and done, going home after the first game in the wild card, or in the Eagles case, if they get a bye in the divisional round, right? I can see it, right? I can see a world when everybody is one and done here. And I also, not only do I feel that the conference is overrated, the Cowboys, which you know about me and what I say about their quarterback, the most overrated quarterback in the league is Dak Prescott. Okay, my man's can never carry a team. That's nothing that he can do. Since he came back from injury, 10 interceptions. 10 interceptions since he came back. Turning the ball over is only going to get you one and done, bro. So they need to fix that. So even if they came and won this game and Dak Prescott threw for 300 yards and we coming back on Monday, the Cowboys are here. No, they're not here. Okay, anytime you sip that Kool-Aid, you're going to realize that you're drinking water. Okay? And in this instance, it is what it is when you talk about the Cowboys. So no, they could win this game. They could win in the blowout. I think the biggest takeaway for me, Zach, is if Gardner Minshew come out and light it up and the Eagles win in a whether it's close, whether it's a blowout, but if Gardner Minshew throws for 200 yards, 300 yards, couple touchdowns, then the biggest takeaway for me is what I already thought as my opinion, backed up by a fact that Jalen Hurts may not be the MVP because his roster is so greatly well constructed, and Gardner Minshew just came in there and lit it up. That's my biggest takeaway, not the Cowboys side of things. I think if they win or lose this game, maybe if they lose this game, then maybe there's a perspective there. But winning, nah, I think they already showed us what they really are.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with the Cowboys, and we've seen it both this season and last season. There were points where everyone's getting excited about them, right? They're playing elite defense. Dak is back, and like there's nothing different about the DNA and the nucleus of this team than last year. And last year, the hype was unreal, saying that this defense is built to get to a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott doesn't even have to do that much. He's got plenty of help around him. And that playoff game against San Francisco was pretty pathetic. They just had penalty after penalty after penalty, played very undisciplined. Dak got outplayed by Jimmy Garoppolo in that game. And when you look at the Cowboys this season, their defense still has all the same parts, but they have not been as good recently as they were the first few weeks of the season. I agree with you. I don't trust Dak Prescott or Mike McCarthy in a playoff game or any big game to save my life. But the Dallas Cowboys, they are a team that they'll get up for certain regular season games. I think they're going to get up for this one. The game in Philly, I will say, it was competitive with Cooper Rush at quarterback. So if Dak could just make a few plays here and there, the Cowboys should have a pretty good chance to win. And I think they're going to. I don't know how much the Eagles are really prioritizing this game. I think that could fall like based on Nick Sirianni's attitude. I just think if the Eagles, all they have to do is just win one of their last two games against either the Saints or the Giants, and they will be the number one seed. It's also going to be interesting to see like how they manage their starters and how much playing time they have with the possibility of getting a bye and with Jalen Hurts being out in how that's going to affect his MVP candidacy. It's going to be interesting to see. It's looking like Mahomes right now has taken over as the favorite, the clear guy to beat. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens if Minshew goes out there and torches the Cowboys. That's definitely going to be what the conversation will be. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Cowboys are going to show up in this game. I think they're going to be ready to play. And in the playoffs, just like they always do, they'll end up disappointing us.
Just a few more things, and I'm pretty much good on this joint. I would say this. When you talk about Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush, right, when they played the first game against the Cowboys and Cooper Rush was under center, I think Cooper Rush was built to make that game competitive or possibly win that game. They could have won that game. They ran their way back into the game because he doesn't turn the ball over, right? But we all know quarterbacks like that are what I call babysitters, there's a ceiling. So in a game like tonight tomorrow night or in the playoffs, obviously we know Cooper Rush was not going to lead that team to a Super Bowl. That's a guy that you probably want in relief, in games like that. But you're going to need your quarterback to make a play and to be a hero at times. You cannot, defense, run the ball all the way to the Super Bowl. Your quarterback on 3rd and long is going to have to make a play. And that's where I fear when it comes to Dak Prescott. So whatever blueprint they had with Cooper Rush is cool for that moment and was cool for that moment. But come times like this, when you're trying to get in, when you play in the playoffs, you're going to need your quarterback to make a play. And Dak cannot. And that's why I don't believe in them. But I think you made a couple interesting takes there that I want to just expand on when it comes to resting and how the Eagles want to play the rest of the season, knowing that they are guaranteed in the playoffs and they could get a number one seed. The reason why I bring that up is because right now we know for a fact that Jalen Hurts is not playing in this game. So he's going to miss this game. How is he looking next week? Maybe he could go. Maybe it's just a 1 week thing. We don't know. But let's say they win the game and he's not there next week and they win the game with Minshew. Did you play him in the last game of the season? To get him like warmed up, a drive or two. Like, how did they do that? Because we all know when you get that bye and you come back 2 weeks later, guys could be out of rhythm. So I don't know how severe his injury is. He probably could have played this week, tomorrow, if it was all said and done, if it was a game they needed. But at the same time, how they manage, just load managing in a way. I hate that word, but just managing, load managing, and then the bye, and then the out of rhythm that it could be. That's another reason why I go back to my take. I believe I can see a world where every team that makes the playoffs from this conference is one and done.
Yeah, so I think if this game was a playoff game tomorrow and it was win or go home, I think Jalen Hurts is playing. And this is kind of a big reason why I don't think the Eagles are really prioritizing this game a ton, because they also know like they have a pretty good backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew that is going to give them a chance to win. And they're right to feel that way. They should be feeling pretty confident about that. But also, if I'm the Eagles, it would not be the most ideal situation for the next time we see Jalen Hurts on the field to be in that first playoff game. That's not what you want to see. You are in an ideal world, you're going to want to see him back at least before then. But at the end of the day, those games might also not mean anything for the Philadelphia Eagles. And even if Hurts doesn't play, they're likely going to play Gardner Minshew, or Gardner Minshew would likely give them a chance to win against the Saints and the Giants. I'm confident Gardner Minshew could win at least one of those games. So yeah, I agree with you. How the Eagles manage this Jalen Hurts situation is going to be interesting, because there is a rust factor. We've seen plenty of teams that rested their starters the last week of the season, had a bye week, and then showed up back for their first playoff game rusty, not ready to play. I don't think that's going to happen with this Eagle team. I think they've built up a lot of equity throughout the season, showing just how good they are, and I still feel very confident in them as my pick to come out of the NFC. But this Hurts injury does make things at least a little bit more interesting, and it's wild because as soon as the door opens up a little bit, the Dallas Cowboys, we're not even sure if they could take advantage of it. I feel like for a lot of the season, the conversation has been, yeah, it's the Eagles at the top, but the Cowboys, they're their biggest threat, and they're elite defense, and they have a good running game and a quarterback. But I don't really know if I'm feeling that way right now about this Dallas Cowboy team. They're really hard to trust, and I think that was only shown more that game on Sunday in Jacksonville. I mean, you're up 17-7, and you can't win that game. Just not good.
And I think, as we segue into our little intermission here, I think for me, when we talk about, do you want that first round bye? Do you want to just be hot at the right time? That's always a very interesting dynamic, right? I think mostly you will want that bye, right? You want to be rested. Football is a dangerous sport. There's a lot of guys around this time that are playing through injuries, right? You'll take the rest, and you'll take the number 1 seed, come through our building, right? And try to get to the Super Bowl. Come to us, come in our backyard, beat us there. But also, I think, when you have a team that gets hot at the right time, right? I'm trying to look for that team in the NFC. I know the AFC. I know a team right now that's playing hot. The NFC, there may be a team here right now. My brain
well,
is.
Let me ask you this. I heard this conversation. So Nick Foles, right? He's going to be playing Monday night for the Colts against the Chargers. Which quarterback in the NFC right now is capable, most likely, of going on that Nick Foles type run like we saw with the Eagles a few years ago? Because I think Brock Purdy would probably be the obvious answer to most people, considering the situation he's in. But the 49ers defense, that's really what's going to be winning them games. Nick Foles, he was the Super Bowl MVP, making a ton of big plays to put the Eagles on his back. I mean, I don't know. They're like Tom Brady, I would say is in the conversation. Probably not Dak Prescott, probably not Kirk Cousins. Like, who I'm still trying to figure out who could give the Eagles that big run in the NFC and who could go on that Nick Foles type run in that conference.
I mean, I think you said the guy. It could be Brock Purdy because of the situation and how similar it is. You had a quarterback who was playing well at the time, maybe not MVP and Jimmy Garoppolo, but was playing well, and he gets hurt. And now, obviously, we talked about the Trey Lance. That was a whole other situation, but he went down, Jimmy G. And now you have Brock Purdy, who could potentially replicate what Nick Foles did and literally beat the Eagles at their own history. So I think that's a very interesting take. And like I said, I always go back and forth because getting hot at the right time, I want to be playing my best football right now. And when you get to the playoffs Everybody's sheet is clean. Like it's 0-0. You won nothing. You did nothing. Right now, it doesn't matter what you did in December. It's gone. It's finito. It's like graduating college with a bachelor's degree and still being unemployed. It doesn't matter what you did in college, bro. How many tests you passed. It's about what you're doing today. And that's why, it's a very interesting dynamic. So we'll see how the Eagles pull through it.